My friends, good morning. The news this morning is that Trump, during the night, went nuclear. The H1B visa, the visa for Indians, the visa that allows American companies to bring in cheap Indian labor. So, of course, the visa wasn't created for India. We agree on that, but literally 75% of the allocations go to Indians, who today in the United States hold nearly 3/4 of the jobs related to tech, development, and information technology. The situation has reached such a point that today in the United States, someone who studies computer science is twice as likely to be unemployed as someone who studies art history. It's reached that level. Our companies no longer hire Americans and they prefer to look for Indian labor because it comes with a discount. It comes with a 36% salary reduction. Plus, it's a workforce that's easy to exploit, a workforce that doesn't have much choice, that's not very mobile, that won't move around much, and that will accept the working conditions imposed on them. What made Trump react? And I'll tell you what he did to basically nuke this visa, which is now in fact literally destroyed. In his executive order, which came as a surprise, he mentions a company without naming it. It's about the Microsoft scandal this summer. What did Microsoft do? They literally announced the same week that they were laying off 16,000 people. People were being laid off in large numbers in the United States and beyond. And at the same time, they applied for 5,000 H1B visas that same week to bring in foreign labor. So this actually caused a lot of turmoil in the United States. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because it showed that American companies, normally this visa was supposed to be used to bring in exceptional talent. Well, instead of exceptional talent, it's simply cheap, exploitable labor that was being brought in to replace American workers who were increasingly being pushed aside. Americans who studied at universities and then graduated had almost zero chance of finding work in a market that favored H1B visas. And let me add another detail. When one employer does it, when one company does it, the others are also forced to do it. Why? It's not about principle or values, just profitability. Imagine the following situation. You have a company A, that employs Americans and pays them a fair wage. A company opens up across the street and offers similar services, but it uses H1B workers, so it gets employees who are much cheaper and more exploitable. The company that doesn't have H1B employees when it responds to calls for tenders or makes quotes will always be more expensive and will have no chance of surviving in that market. So it too will be forced to get rid of local workers and import cheaper labor. So this has snowballed until today. Literally, as I told you at the beginning of the video, 3/4 of the people who work in tech. In 2003, it was about a third who came from India. Today, they are practically around 2/3, 3/4, just to give you an idea. So what did Trump do to brutally nuclearize this visa? So first of all, what you need to know now is that the visa fees have skyrocketed. They've increased 100-fold. Before, you had to pay about $1,000 in fees, right? To get this visa, today, you have to pay $100,000, and it's not $100,000 just for the application. It's $100,000 per year. So companies that want to, let's say a company wants to bring in 10 people with this visa, they have to pay $1 million for the application. The $1 million is kept, as is the $100,000 per visa, regardless of approval or denial. That means if the visa is denied, the $100,000 is not refunded. So that's lost. Then every year to renew the visa, you have to pay $100,000. So in practice, you could say this visa is dead. There won't be any more. It's no longer the factory it used to be that allowed entire villages to be brought over. Because you should also know that there was a lot of ethnic targeting. That means I've seen this in many companies where you have a group that comes in, then they bring in people affiliated with them, related to them, or from the same region. And gradually you end up with a complete cleansing of the company. And then the company turns into a big tribe to the detriment of the other employees. So there is also in the it just came out, so there are a few uncertainties. But one of the important points is that people who have the H1B and who are abroad, well, they have to. They must pay $100,000 to return to the United States. And this starts from tomorrow, Sunday, so from December 21st, so September 21st. So let's say that today at midnight, one at the American Border Police, those wanting to return on an H1B visa after being abroad, whether for vacation or other reasons. Sometimes they work remotely. That means a lot of people get this visa. And that was actually part of the fraud. A lot of people were getting it, then they were actually living in India, and then they were working remotely, sometimes even at several jobs, as I mentioned in a previous video. And actually now, today, if they want to come back, well, they don't really have time anymore because it's too late. Time doesn't allow them to come back because it was announced at the last minute. And so some might try to rush, try to catch a plane to get to the United States before midnight. But that's going to be a bit tight coming from India, because even a direct flight is 16 hours. If you have to take a flight that's not direct, transiting through Dubai or somewhere else, we're talking about 24 or 25 hours to get there, not including delays, of course. So someone leaving from Delhi already needs 24 hours to get to the United States, to New York, let's say. Someone leaving from a more distant place has no chance because they already have to commute to Delhi by road. It takes hours. With only 1 or 2 flights a day, getting to the States will be a race. For many, but in any case, there you have it. It's a system of organized fraud that is being dismantled. Of course, that's what's going to happen too. In response, we think that many companies will use outsourcing even more. I'm sure he'll probably set up a mechanism to prevent outsourcing. Currently, the main issue in tech is outsourcing. Here's why. It impacts France and all of Europe as well. That means if you outsource to manufacture a product, let's say you outsource to make a tractor, next you have to return the tractor from abroad to sell it in France. Well, at customs, we still have a ship arriving and there are plenty of tractors being unloaded. And so there's a possibility of collecting customs duties that might make the operation not worthwhile for the person doing it. So there's the possibility of creating a system of tariffs. On the other hand, with tech, that's not possible. If you import 10 million euros in tractors, it's obvious. They're yellow, heavy, and hard to miss. But you can bring in 10 billion worth of services, codes, scripts, things like that, and nobody even notices. Why? Because it's transferred over the internet. A team of 100 people working abroad can create a program valued at 1 million euros. Well, that program can literally be posted through GitHub. It can be committed to a server or something like that. No one sees or knows. There's no port, customs, or anything. And this precisely in tech jobs is causing the imbalance that I illustrated with a few figures. There's another element in use, but it doesn't concern Trump's executive order. Today, the employment-based, one also known as the Einstein visa, is another commonly used visa. It's a very special visa, which was created for people with exceptional talent, people who could potentially be Nobel Prize candidates originally. That's why it was created, to allow people of that level to immigrate to the United States. So here's what happens today. Today there are agencies in India, you pay them and they do this. They go to scientists and they give them it costs about $500 roughly, but you can find it for less, for $500. They cite you in their study, showing you've published peer-reviewed work. They find scientists for you. Scientists are usually broke, especially PhD students. He lives in a studio, rides a bike, and can't take his girlfriend to a restaurant. So you give him $500. He's about to finish a study, and he puts your name in it. So basically, you become someone who participates in a study, or in another context, someone who's cited in studies. He can cite you, and people pay for citations and authorship. And then after a while, they can really create academic records for you that make you someone who's highly cited, someone who's really followed. That's the first point. They also organize fake employment-based one visa conferences, right? What they do is create a website. They create the conference, for example, calling it the Artificial Intelligence Geniuses Conference, which will be held in London in October 2025. It will be held from the 1st to the 3rd. And then we'll have people who are the international leaders in this field who will come to speak. They rent a conference room, issue press releases, and invite a few local newspapers. And then what they do is at this conference, they bring their clients to speak. That means you pay $2,000, you come and speak at the conference. And actually, these people are just there to take pictures, to build an immigration file. At the conference, all speakers are clients of the company, and this is public information. Sometimes even local newspapers that publish it aren't aware it's a scam. They think there's an artificial intelligence conference in our city. I get a press invite, go take some photos and talk about it. Those articles, along with photos, will also be added to immigration files. So with this, we managed to create the profile of someone who really comes across as a guy, as an exceptional talent. But the guy himself, he's nothing. The guy doesn't really have any training, doesn't have any interesting ideas, doesn't have anything. He's just someone who paid to get that visa. So you see, scams with this kind of visa are common for all types of visas. There are no limits today, so Trump just stirred things up and we'll see what happens. Now, if we look at what happened the last times he tried things like this, you'll see in the coming hours. A judge, I like it when they say a judge because it sounds like it's a country run by judges. So a judge somewhere in Florida or North Carolina, it doesn't matter. A judge said no, he blocked that. And then after that, well, it went on for weeks and all that, and then another judge blocks it, etc. And that's another point and so on. So we'll see how it turns out. But in reality, this is really Trump's war against companies, and he didn't specifically mention Microsoft. This is about the executive. Vorder is talking about a company that laid off 10,000 people. Here you think it laid off 15,000 people. It requested 5,000 visas. That's exactly what Microsoft did a few weeks ago. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video. And if there's news like this, I'll be back. See you very soon, Sus.